It was a beautiful day, one that many would describe as perfect for a wedding. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and the air had that crisp freshness that makes everything feel just right. The ceremony was held in a lavish hall, with grand chandeliers and a sea of flowers everywhere. The bride, Lacey, looked stunning. Her white dress glistened, and her smile lit up the entire room. But there was something off about the day. I could feel it, even though the guests around me seemed to be enjoying themselves. People laughed, drank champagne, and chatted about the future of the newlyweds. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing under the surface. And then he walked in, the groom. Josh, Lacey's soon-to-be husband, a man I'd never met before. He was tall, with a sharp jawline, wearing a suit that screamed money. He looked every bit the part of the rich, handsome groom. As he made his way down the aisle, I could see the pride in his eyes as he looked at Lacey. She, on the other hand, seemed nervous. Her eyes shifted around the room, avoiding his gaze for brief moments, as if she was trying to read the room herself. I didn't know much about Josh, other than what everyone had said. He was wealthy, successful, and, well, a bit full of himself. But I didn't think much of it until later. When the reception began, that's when things took an unexpected turn. The guests had moved to the ballroom for the reception. Music filled the air, and everyone seemed to be lost in their own world of celebration. I was standing near the buffet table when I overheard something I never thought I would hear at a wedding. Josh, the groom, was standing near a group of people when his voice cut through the laughter, filled with anger. "I can't believe this. You," he said, pointing directly at one of the guests, a black man named Marcus who had arrived earlier. "You think you can just walk in here and take what doesn't belong to you?" The crowd went silent. I turned my head and saw Marcus standing still, his face calm but clearly taken aback. He was a close friend of Lacey's, someone who had helped her when she first started at the company where she worked. I had always heard about how hard he had worked to get to where he was in life, how much he meant to Lacey. "Are you accusing me of stealing?" Marcus said, his voice steady but firm. "I didn't steal anything." Josh was furious now, his face flushed red with anger. "Don't lie to me," he spat. "I saw you sneaking around earlier. I know what you were doing." It felt like the whole room had frozen. Everyone was looking, waiting for something to happen. Lacey appeared from the crowd, her eyes wide in disbelief. "Josh, what are you doing?" she asked, walking toward him, her voice shaky. "I'm just pointing out the truth," Josh said, his words full of venom. "He doesn't belong here. He doesn't deserve to be at my wedding." I could feel the tension in the air. It was as if the happiness that had filled the room just moments ago had vanished into thin air. The guests were whispering among themselves, and I could see Lacey's face turning pale. She stood there for a moment, looking between Josh and Marcus, her eyes filled with confusion and regret. Marcus didn't flinch. He stood there, his posture proud, though there was a quiet sadness in his eyes. He looked at Lacey, and then back at Josh. "Josh," Marcus began, his voice calm but full of authority, "you don't know who I am, do you?" Josh sneered, crossing his arms. "Oh, I know exactly who you are. You're just a thief trying to make a scene at my wedding." But Marcus wasn't backing down. He took a deep breath, as if preparing himself for something. "I'm Marcus Davis. I'm the CEO of the company where Lacey works," he said, his words clear and deliberate. "The company you've been trying to get your hands on for years." There was a collective gasp in the room, and I could see Josh's face drain of color. He looked like he had just been hit by a truck. His eyes widened in shock, and for the first time, I saw doubt in his expression. You're the CEO?" Josh stammered, his voice faltering. But I'm the one who helped make Lacey's career," Marcus continued, his voice steady, the calmness contrasting with Josh's growing panic. "I'm the one who signed her promotion, and I'm the one who makes decisions about your company's future. I was also the one who decided to offer Lacey an opportunity. You've been trying to buy the company, Josh, but I won't let someone like you take control." The room was silent. No one knew what to say. The groom, who had just a moment ago been so certain of his accusations, was now standing there, looking small and defeated. Lacey, still in shock, turned to Marcus, her eyes wide. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus looked at her, his expression softening. I didn't want you to think that's the only reason I'm here. I'm here because I care about you. But I didn't want anyone to think I was using my position. Lacey nodded slowly, her mind racing. She had trusted Josh, and now, everything seemed to be falling apart around her. Josh looked around, the weight of the room bearing down on him. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. The guests were all staring at him, some with disbelief, others with pity. Finally, Lacey stepped forward, her voice firm. Josh, I can't marry someone who would treat a guest like that. I thought I knew you, but now I see the truth, she said. You've humiliated Marcus and shown your true colors. I don't think we have a future together. The silence that followed was deafening. Josh's face turned a deep shade of red as he tried to collect himself, but Lacey was already walking away. She didn't look back. The wedding that was supposed to be the start of a new chapter for them had just crumbled in an instant. Marcus, who had stood strong throughout the ordeal, placed a hand gently on Lacey's shoulder as she passed him. She gave him a weak smile, and for the first time that day, I saw her relax. The groom had lost his grip on the day, and the truth had come to light in a way no one expected. The wedding was over before it really even began. In the days that followed, the whole town was buzzing about what had happened at the wedding. It spread like wildfire. People couldn't stop talking about how the groom, Josh, had been exposed in front of everyone. But it wasn't just his actions that people were talking about. It was how Marcus had handled the entire situation with grace and dignity. Lacey and Marcus had spent hours talking after the wedding, just the two of them. She had needed time to process everything. She'd told me how much she felt betrayed by Josh's arrogance and ignorance. She had thought she was marrying someone who was her equal, someone who valued her for who she was. But Josh's behavior, his assumption that Marcus was a thief just because of his race, had opened her eyes to a side of him she hadn't seen before. Marcus, for his part, was calm. He had no ill will toward Lacey. In fact, he assured her that he was just glad she was safe and free from someone who could treat her that way. But for Lacey, it wasn't that simple. She had loved Josh once, or so she thought. The betrayal felt deeper than just the accusation. It was the realization that her life, her career, and the people around her were more complicated than she had imagined. She spent weeks away from the spotlight, focusing on herself and her friends. Marcus was a constant support, reminding her of her strength and what really mattered. But in the back of her mind, she still struggled with the image of her wedding day. The day that should have been the happiest of her life, turned upside down by one man's racist assumptions. Eventually, Lacey made a decision. She and Marcus became closer. Not because of his position or power, but because of the mutual respect they shared. They both valued honesty and integrity. Marcus, despite his role as CEO, never let it get in the way of their friendship. It wasn't about business, it was about real connections. And slowly, Lacey began to see that her life was better off without Josh. Months later, at a charity event hosted by Marcus's company, Lacey took the stage to speak. Her voice was steady, filled with the conviction I hadn't seen in her before. She talked about her journey, about finding herself, and about the importance of standing up for what's right. Josh, on the other hand, had faced his own downfall. News about his treatment of Marcus at the wedding had made its way to the press. His business partners, realizing they had been working with a man who thought so little of others, quickly distanced themselves from him. He lost his connections, his status, and eventually his wealth. It was a slow, painful unraveling. Lacey and Marcus continued to work together, and their bond grew stronger over time. Though their relationship never turned romantic, it became a deep, unwavering friendship, built on mutual understanding and respect. And as for Josh, he learned the hard way that no amount of money or status could ever replace kindness, decency, and true character. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story and the unexpected twists that unfolded. If you loved it, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on more incredible stories like this. And if it resonated with you, give this video a like and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to share with your friends to spread the word. Let's keep the conversation going, and I'll see you in the next one.